the SM Media Podcast Network.
Hi folks, and welcome to the newest episode of our SM Media Horse Racing Show. It's the spin-off of Countdown to Cheltenham. Cheltenham's in the past. We're now looking forward to what's coming up all through 2025 in the racing calendar. We're going to Merseyside this week. We're going to take a look at Aintree, the Grand National Festival. Thursday's racing starts obviously tomorrow, so we'll be covering that in detail. We do have declarations for day one, so fascinating day's action. I'm Scott McPike. It is always a pleasure to be your host, and it is always an absolute delight to be joined by from the Scottish Daily Mail, Callum McCluckin.
Hi there, yeah. Grand National's quite quick on the back of Cheltenham this year, so straight into it. And we've had the flat season last week that's beginning to get up and running, so you've kind of in this kind of curious spot where you're getting the Grand National, the Scottish National in between the flats. So yeah, it's kind of twixt in between at the moment, so very exciting. But Aintree's always got a... It's kind of... I mean, if Cheltenham's a purist and Aintree's figuring out more for the public, so it's interesting 3 days ahead.
Just, you've obviously mentioned the flat. We'll start with that, obviously, with the Lincoln meeting on Saturday, and then with a good day's action at the Curragh. We saw a couple of, obviously, classic contenders. Any takeaways from the first weekend of flat action?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Dancing Gemini was really impressive as the winner in the race before the Lincoln, a race that Charing used successfully to become top miler last season. Pretty interested to see if he can do the same. He didn't win as a 3-year-old, but he placed in a lot of high-class races. He was second in the French Guineas, for instance. And yeah, he won that very, very nicely. And he looks to be a horse that could definitely go places. It's a bit odd in Britain because you've got that, and then it's kind of a bit of a 2-week break that they can kind of come back to. But it was certainly nice dipping the toe in the water in the Lincoln meeting.
There's a couple, obviously, I was going to get your thoughts on these. Obviously, I thought Tarima for Dermot Weld in the first race at Leopardstown on Sunday looked very impressive. She looks to be a real contender for, but I would probably say maybe the Irish Guineas, I think, was maybe the route they'll go down.
It seems to be, that seems to be the plan with them.
And obviously, Ryan Moore had a treble. Henri Matisse, obviously, looks as if he will improve for further. Looked beat from a long way out, but managed to get there. Delacroix was obviously the talking horse, into 10-1 for the Epsom Derby. According to Aidan O'Brien, looks to be in a collision course with stablemate Lion and Winter for the English Derby. I think, again, it's a good stamping point so far.
Yeah, I think Lion and Winter's probably the better of the pair, and he's missing the Guineas, and he would probably been the horse that would have taken the Guineas.
I think they said they were going for first.
Yeah, and the Dante's a good trial.
Yeah.
York's a very kind of nice track for that. And he I think the plan was probably Guineas first and then into the Derby with him. He would probably been the number one, but I was second at Doncaster, and he's probably versatile. He's probably that kind of Hardy got experience in the bank type, and he'd definitely be an each-way player. Going the High Chaparral route with the Ballysacks and then via the Derby. So yeah, I mean he's obviously going to be a big player. The Henri Matisse race, I wasn't really impressed by it.
I wasn't impressed, but I think he will.
I think he'll improve up in trip, but I don't think he's kind of Group 1 class, personally.
Maybe not. Like anything else, obviously. Have you had any anti-post bets for the flat year? Like anything at all? No, I'm surprised at that. You usually have something in the radar.
Well, I mean, I don't think you'd be surprised given the anti-post prices punters are used to the last year or 18 months.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. Let's move into, before we talk about Aintree, obviously there was a bit of news during the week that I wanted to just kind of discuss briefly. There was the critical incident review into obviously the tragic death of Michael O'Sullivan. Now, I wanted to just get your thoughts on this because there's a couple of things here I wanted to just see if where you kind of sat with it and see how we can improve, not improve, but how we can kind of learn from obviously the really tragic incident that I think has all touched us. But obviously the review that the IHRB did was basically informed of video analysis, eyewitness accounts, and post-incident inspections. It found no evidence of human error, equipment failure, or environmental factors as the primary cause. It was attributed to the inherent risks of national hunt racing, with a series of independent falls triggering an unavoidable chain reaction. Now, obviously, that kind of describes it, the fact that there was no failure or anything, there was nothing that could have been avoided from a human kind of point of view. But the one thing I wanted to touch on was they had put forward several recommendations to further safeguard the report. One of them was they wanted to do a review of the track configurations and conditions at Thurles in particular. Ground conditions at Thurles on the day of, obviously, the day Michael Sullivan's fall was decided as officially good, but there obviously has been discussions that it was watered. It's been watered since. It is a track that is well known for drying out quite quickly. What do we kind of do here? What do we kind of learn from this? Because obviously, it is an unspeakable tragedy that I think possibly, I hope it never happens again, but there's always a risk it might. When they were saying, though, that it's attributed to the inherent risk of national hunt racing, we have seen, obviously, particularly in the flat, if I go back to even recently with Graham Lee and Freddie Taliki, it happens in any sort of horse racing. So, what do you make of the report? Is there anything in it that you're kind of looking at? What do you kind of take away from this?
Oh yeah, it's an unfortunate racing incident at the end of the day, and I don't think it can be prevented. Something like that will happen again. It's whether the track configuration and conditions can kind of mitigate it sufficiently that it doesn't lead to a fatality like that. And Thurles had a problem all year with it. There was a lot of meetings that were pulled out that year because of the ground. It was too firm, and this was one that they managed to get on. And there was a lot of horses that day pulled out because it was too quick. And it's whether the going was probably there was firm in it, and if there wasn't firm in it, then you wouldn't have that severe impact with the head that happened. So I think it's track conditions configuration to have a proper irrigation system in place so the ground doesn't have that firmness to it, and that's what kind of maybe partly contributed to it. But I mean, as the review say, it was basically like a racing incident, and you can make all the provisions that you like, but something like that is going to happen in jump racing, and everyone, even Michael Sullivan, knows the risks that are involved, and I'm afraid, and that was one tragic episode. But yeah, Thurles will learn from it. The configuration and conditions, the track. I think proper, genuine irrigation in all quarters of the track, I think, is the main takeaway from it, from their perspective, that it's got to be implemented better.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely. It's obviously just a tragic incident that we're all still reeling from. But obviously, I just hope they can not learn from it. But I know it's obviously one of those you don't want to learn from it in tragic ways. But we do have a duty. The one thing with ground I was going to say about is I think a lot of times this season, and we've spoken about this a lot over the past few years, that there's a lot of times where you won't know a ground report until maybe 2 races in. Sometimes it will take you a long time, particularly from a racing perspective. I'm not even talking about a punting perspective. From a safety point of view, you won't get a definitive kind of ground decision until certainly after the first race, and maybe even into 3 or 4 races if you're doing different tracks and things like that. That should be better. That's something that has to be kind of looked at better.
Yeah, well, normally you get a ground description in the morning, and then the weather could be completely different between the morning and the first race, and then you're kind of guessing all of a sudden. There's a lot of inaccurate going reports that are about that it certainly doesn't help punters. But in terms of the safety side of it, they always talk about it drying out and being too quick. It's never really the other way around, where it's absolutely hot, deep, and bottomless in terms of safety. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that's pretty subjective, but I think that the problem with Thurles is that I don't think they can water certain parts of the track, and that's a concern. And when it dries out, and it really does dry out, and they don't really have much scope to water it all. I mean, Bath and Brighton, I think, have got similar problems in the flat where it can really become a road down there because they can't. I don't think they can water it. So there's things like that they've got to kind of be mindful of. But I mean, yeah, accurate going report. I mean, I think he talks until Saturday after Cheltenham. I think was pretty wrong in what it seemed like. You'd have thought it was good to soft. There was no good in it.
Yeah.
For instance, so I mean, if you're betting on that, you were kind of screwed looking at the form book with what horses won that. So yeah, I mean, it happens, and it's 2 weeks through. But I mean, with any kind of review, you're just kind of glad that it's taken place, and it'll take steps forward, and you'll see with the Grand National, even if it's incident free, there'll still be a very deep, thorough safety review, and whether they can kind of get it better every single year. But yeah, like every sport, it has to evolve, and it has to improve and minimise the risk as much as possible.
Let's move into talking about what is happening this week. We've obviously got the 3-day festival of Aintree. You obviously mentioned that with Grand National Week. We will cover all the Grade 1s. There's a lot of really interesting Grade 1 action. We'll take a look at the other races, then we'll do an in-depth preview of the Grand National, and hopefully maybe even pick you a couple each ways. I've got 100-1 fancy in the Grand National. I'm going to let you guess what it is. I think it's a horse you maybe know quite well, actually. But we'll start with Thursday. We'll go to the first race of the meeting, which is the Manifesto Novices Chase. Very, very interesting start to the meeting. Obviously, a few really good horses lining up here. You've got Jangle Bay, obviously the Arkle winner, in at 5-2. Croke Park and Imperi Pass coming over at 3-1. Obviously, Swerve Cheltenham to come here. Gidley Park 11-2. Obviously, won at Windsor, beat Caldwell Potter, obviously, and you get 10-1 Ballites of Rubod. Killuka Kid is in here. I think that's a very good start to the meeting, actually.
Yeah, it's a good race. It usually is. There's a decent kind of roll of honour. Banbridge won this, Protectorate won this. I always remember 2018 when Firian's Oscar came from absolutely nowhere to win it. Yeah, it's a good race, and I think Imperi Pass might be the one in this. Freshened up, won the Aintree Hurdle 12 months ago. He's taking the same route. He was a bit disappointed at Leopardstown, but he usually doesn't fire there. He's had a nice break coming into this, and I think Django Bay, he pulled the Arkle out of the fire, and this step up and trip should suit. But I thought he was one horse that had a harder race than most, and this is kind of the key to success, really, at Aintree, is ascertaining which Cheltenham horses probably had a harder race and which one didn't, and take him on. I think he's probably good to take on, because this was the plan, and he kind of stepped in the absence of Sergino, really, at Cheltenham rather than anything. And I mean, he did really well to win, but I mean, I thought that was a hard enough race to go over just 23 days prior. So, and I think Imperi Pass is the fresh horse. It's the one that's obviously well positioned to take advantage. Cheek pieces on to help him focus. He did idle in front last year when he won the Aintree Hurdle by head in the photo finish. He still won it, and he's got a lot of back class, and he's banged the ratings. I can't have Croke Park personally, because the times he's travelled over, he's really disappointed, and you have to be mindful that might happen again with him. And I know he's got this kind of 2.5 graded winning form, but he does shape as if he's a 3-miler, doesn't he? And I wonder if he'll get done for speed here. Gidley Park's interesting but fresh, but again, I don't think you can kind of trust him given his back catalogue. He's had problems in the past before, and Rubo is pretty interesting each way. Good ground, up to 2.5, bit of a break. I don't think Ludesad let down the form massively.
No.
When he was second, he won subsequently when he was probably getting over that hard race at Warwick. He likes the track, the distance is fine. He's got good back class from his hurdling days. I wouldn't put anyone off backing him each way at 14. So I mean, at the top of the market, being Perry Pass for me and Rubo each way.
I think Imperi Pass is my marginal call as well. I think Croke Park has been very consistent, but the one thing is his best form is in Ireland. Can he come over? I think he ran in the 3 mile last year, and I think he was very poor. I think he pulled up in the race Dancing City one last year. So that is something to take as well. He's been very consistent in Ireland this season. I actually think, looking back, it's probably my best one of the jump season was picking him for the Drinmo. That was 22. I think I picked him last. That's one of the ones I picked out the fire. So, but in Perry Pass, I think this is the right trip. Good course form. 2.5 miles in this ground, I think, is ideal for him. I think the last day out, I think I think it was a bit of a falsely run race. I know Croke Park finished ahead of him, but it could be potentially that maybe he just doesn't like Leopardstown. I think Aintree will maybe suit him better at this trip. I think in Perry Pass just over Croke Park for me, but not that I'm against Django Bay. Like I'm not like, but I would be. I think it is a big ask to go and win this at 2.5. It's probably the right call stepping him up in trip,
Oh yeah,
but I would imagine the fresher horses will maybe just get the better of him here.
yeah. You see it quite often at Aintree where they're just £5-7 off their Aintree, their Cheltenham Peak, and if he is slightly off it, then Perry Pass is definitely there to kind of pounce because I mean you just expect one horse to improve for this, and maybe the other horse to kind of slightly down, slightly be worse. But yeah, he's definitely going to take a hand, and if he is over that arc effort, then he is the one to beat. If he replicates that and stepping up and trip will suit him. This was initially the plan, and he's lightly racing enough and progressive enough to take it in his stride. But it's just an instinctive call. It's just to my eye, I thought that Arca was pretty hard going.
Mm.
They went hard. He's been woefully outpaced from the back, and he's coming in and win it. Because he does have that excess stamina, and you just wonder if that's maybe taking a little bit of the edge off him here, and makes him a little bit vulnerable to something that's a bit fresher. And then Perry Pass is the obvious one against them.
Let's move into the 220, the Biddles Anniversary 4-year-old Juvenile Hurdle. Before we get into the horses that are turning up, obviously, we'd be remiss to not mention the news about Lalamba, who is now going towards the 2.5 Mersey Novices Hurdle on Saturday. Like, I probably think you were the same. I thought he was rock solid for this. I thought he'd have won this. What do you make of the decision to step him up to 2.5?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one because I don't think there was much indication of it before he was surprisingly pulled. I think everyone thought it was a kind of April Fool's joke and Declaration Day. Yeah, I mean, it's just surprising that the juvenile is not it's not in the juvenile race really. And it didn't look obvious, and when he was second the Triumph that he dramatically needed a step up and trip. I just think Nicky Henderson thinks that maybe the mistake that he made at the second last and the fact he needed the whole of the hill to get up suggests that, well, you might as well take the 2.5 mile option with a £10 concession. It's 6.5 and nothing to him, and they might learn more about him with a view to next season. Yeah, there'll be a lot of burnt fingers anti-post with him because I think him, John Bond, Constitution Hill would probably be a popular redemption treble.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've fortunately not get that on.
Yeah, I didn't back Lalamba. I obviously thought he would win, but I was like, I haven't done any anti-post picks for this actually. I've just waited to the day. But I think it's another very competitive betting heat. Obviously, Put Your Hands Together was very, very good in the Boodles at 5-2. Live Conti 10-3. Then you've got a lot of Irish Raiders, obviously Naturally Nimble, Mercia, Wendrock, Willie de Hughes obviously coming back as well. Mambo number 5 obviously won the Adonis. I think Live Conti is probably maybe the better long term horse, but I think Put Your Hands Together. I still think there's capability of improvement here, and I think he could just kick on again here.
I mean, it's an interesting race because it's wide open now. It's probably quite weak, but I mean, you're mainly looking at now Fred Winter form,
Yeah,
really, rather than Triumph form, and your lesser Triumph horses tend to win this over your Fred Winters. I mean, Sergino Zenta was in the Triumph, Night Salute in the Triumph,
Monmoral was
Monmoral
can
was
avoid
left
it.
fresh,
Yeah.
and I mean, I suppose Live Conti could do what Monmoral did and be fresh and be the unexposed horse. Penton Hills won the Triumph, went back to back, edged out the Bulldogs winner actually
Mm-hmm.
in that race. We Have a Dream was left fresh for Aintree. Defi de Soy obviously won the Triumph as well. So yeah, and Put Your Hands Together was very, very impressive in the Fred Winter, and obviously was the best horse in the race. But I mean, at 9-4, he's plenty short enough here to transfer that into graded form. And wasn't Naturally Nimble going to be the yards Fred Winter horse and he get too high in the weights? Has he been
Yeah,
left fresh for this? He might
maybe.
be the bet now at fives.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. I mean, Live Conti could be anything, but an all-known form, he's got enough to find, and you're taking a stab at the dark at fives. Like if he gets backed ominously into 5-2, 7-2 territory, then you're probably, you're probably on something good there, and he might take the world a beating. He's the one in the field that can blow it apart by being totally unexposed and win well. At the moment, I'm drawn to Naturally Nimble. The yard, I mean, JJ Slevin on board.
Yeah.
I think they've taken one look at their mark and gone, we'll just wait for this because we've already got Put Your Hands Together and Beyond Your Dreams that were two pretty obvious Boodle types, and he would have probably finished something like 4th or 5th in the Triumph, and I think that's usually better form than the Boodles coming into this. I mean, Mercia was actually well in the weights, and obviously gets a big weight pool here, and Paul Townend's picked her, and you can gradually see her, getting the hang of things. She was 8th in the Boodles, but she was probably second or third best off at the weights, probably behind Wenrock actually, and Wenrock and Put Your Hands Together. So she comes into the equation each way, I think. In Mambo number 5, it could be anything. Fresh horse coming in. I think the outsiders have enough on their plate, but we saw the Triumph 100-1 winner could come out and pop up. So yeah, it's taken a different dimension to the race with Lalamba out, but I was mainly looking at Naturally Nimble, I've got to say.
Yeah, I can see. I think there's a few of these that could just be kind of maybe better than what we thought. I don't think there is the Poneros. The one that I might give a wee mention to is Aviemore for Harry Derham. Harry
Yeah.
Cobden's picked him 40-1. I can see him running quite well. I do think he's a horse for the future. Live Conti, I think, is going to be the best of these. I think in 2 years, if we look back at this race, Live Conti will be the one we'll talk about. But is it too much of an ass to go win a Grade 1 after 2 starts?
Ground as well. I mean,
Ground as well.
Ground, and you don't really know. But he's all about potential. It's just ascertaining, how good it is. And I think a lot of people each year would have had a poke at him, even with a lamb in the field. But yeah, you've got to kind of. It's very, very hard to gauge what he's done in Grade 1 context.
Let's move into the 255, the newly named Brooklands Golden Miller Chronograph Bowl, which obviously formerly known as the Betway Bowl. Grey Dawning at 2-1, obviously won at Kelso, been kind of kept for this. Spillans Tower 7-2, Ahoy Senor, Gaelic Warrior Stage Star 15-2, 13-2, and then 10-1 Bar. I am drawn to Ahoy Senor.
Oh God.
If there's one race he's going to win this season, it's this one. Well, if there's one race all year he's going to go well in, it's here. I know about, but you can't back him in form, but
his Aintree form is different class, yeah.
Yes, it's whether he is as good as he was last year, and I do have doubts about the others in the race. Gaelic Warrior, for obvious reasons. Stage Star, I'm not sure is a 3-miler, even though he ran well last time out. Spillans Tower and Grey Dawning, are they going to take each other on? Are they ready for this? I thought Grey Dawning ran quite poor at Aintree last year. Spillans Tower, the one time he's travelled over, hasn't travelled well. I'm just drawn to Ahoy Senor, and I think despite his horrendous season so far, he's the consistent one at the track for me.
Yeah, and he's going out to like 13-2 where you can back him each way.
Yeah.
I can't back a horse that's pulled up twice and fell last year. He was in the process of running well in the Gold Cup, but he's 10 now and he's exposed, and he does have a good Aintree record, does come to life, but I don't think I can go to that particular.
What I will say is there's only £9 between the 8 and the field, so it is like a good race.
Yeah, it's closely knit. I mean, Gaelic Warrior. I mean, Paul Tenney not picking him is a big negative to me. I mean, it's probably indicative that he's not quite there yet. Like he's been all year. He's got headgear on, I think. Stage Star probably not quite up to this level in all known form yet. Embassy Gallants can go well fresh, but it's a bit of a step. He's a bit hit and miss. The real whacker is another strong pace angle into the race as well, and Jail's got to bounce back from a fairly tame effort in the Ryanair. I like Grey Dawning.
Okay.
I think there's excuses for his defeat last year, mainly because he was in the novice chase at Cheltenham and he went at it with Ginny's Desi for a long way out, and that left a mark on both of them, and they still finished second and third at Aintree, and they just I think it was a classic case of them just a bit of a Cheltenham hangover. I don't think that was his true form. I think he's the most unexposed in this race. I think he's the most exciting, and he's a Gold Cup horse going forward. And this has been the plan, and Kelso was a good stepping stone, and I think he'll improve from it. And if he does, I think he'll win. I just think Spillane Tower probably needs a touch of soft ground.
Yeah.
He has a chance, obviously. I mean, his Kempton effort was a little bit underwhelming, but he was still fifth. It wasn't a bad run.
Mm-hmm.
He's been kept fresh for this, but I didn't think this was a plan. I thought Fairy House was a plan. And I just wonder, not seeing him, I wonder if he's kind of had a little hold up or something like that. I'm not as confident in his prep for this than Grey Dawning. And yeah, the price is pretty unappealing at 9-4, but I think he's the most likely winner of this by a long, long way. Yeah, I think he's ready to take a step up class in his stride. Okay, the fear was that he might have left his season at Haydock in the mud in the Betfair, where that form hasn't worked out at all, but it was just simply too attritional for him.
Yeah.
They've recovered things quite well, and Dan Skelton's drawn up a very good end of season plan with him, and he executed the first step quite nicely. When he only beat Aroko, who's having a prep for the Grand National, but he jumped quite fluidly. He doesn't need to lead. I think he'll get a good pace to aim at in behind the likes of the Real Whack and a Hoyce and Yorn. I think he'll just lob away in behind, and yeah, I can see him taking this out.
Let's go into probably the highlight. I would say probably the highlight of the week is going to be the Aintree hurdle. Constitution Hill versus Lossiemouth 2. Constitution Hill 8-11, Lossiemouth 13-8. They're kind of priced the same as they were at Kempton. Is it going to be the same result? According to Nicky Henderson, Constitution Hill has done nothing but jump hurdles since Cheltenham.
Yeah, you'd expect that to be the case, wouldn't you? And yeah, I mean, he's actually a bigger price he was when Brighter Days Ahead was in the race than he is now. All the support's coming for Lossiemouth. I think 2.5 miles is the key there. She's now all of a sudden had the better prep coming into this after winning the Mares Hurdle, and he's had a fall. But I quite like Constitution Hill in this.
I think it's a great price.
I can't believe that he's. I mean, he's 4-7 to win the Champion Hurdle, and I think he would have won if he didn't fall. If that's ironed out, and his run at Aintree where he won by 3 lengths from Sharjah, and people say, "Oh, he's stopping at the line." He wasn't. He just had the race won. And Sharjah was ridden from miles back to stay the trip and finish off his race. And Nico de Boinville was just motionless up the running. He had plenty of left, and he did actually momentarily ask him when he picked up again. I think the trip's no concern. I think it's, if anything, it's better for him, because I think it'll maybe they'll go half a stride slower, and I think that'll probably help him in the jumping department. And I still think he'll take lengths out of Lossiemouth in the air when he meets it right. And I just don't think Lossiemouth has done enough in her career to get anywhere near the level that Constitution Hill has, even with a £7 allowance. Now, whether she's been given the chance to do so, and you're having the same kind of debate over the Champion Hill that we've had all season, but it's an Aintree context, and the extra trip should help her more than it does Constitution Hill. But the end of the day is he's £15 superior to her, and he hasn't done what he hasn't really matched that since running in Champion Hurdle 2 years ago, but he hasn't needed to.
He's still there. He's close to still being there, though. We've seen, I go back to the Champion Hurdle.
He gives that impression.
See, before he fell, you were delighted with how he was travelling.
Absolutely. But you could say the same for Lossiemouth when against Stateman in the Irish Champion Hurdle. I mean, they're there to be jumped. The thing is, do you trust the yard to iron that out? I personally do. And I think they will, and I think the extra half a mile will help in that regard, because I think he can get away with a mistake going a little bit slower. But that's his nature. All your best 2 mile hurdlers will take things quick and aggressive, and if they get it wrong, then they'll come a cropper. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's something that you can really legislate for and really factor in. It's how good I think Lossiemouth will be over 2.5 against them. Obviously, reasonably close at Kempton staying on, but there could easily be a point here where she's just done for tactical speed, and the race will be over if that happens. And I mean, I lost him as a 160 horse, and I think Constitution Hill is probably okay, maybe not 175, but I can easily see him pushing high 160s, 170. And if he does that, I think he'll win.
Yeah.
And I think he can. And yeah, I think he'll win. And he's getting to a price of 5 to 6 where, I mean, if he goes off evens, then I think you have to side with him.
Yeah,
Personally.
I was surprised that the Aintree hurdle is where they're going. Obviously, after quickly mentioning Punchestown.
I don't think he would have went if he completed.
Yeah, I don't think they would have either. I think that was the thing as well. But as you mentioned, obviously, he's hit one hurdle. Like I know he's hit two hurdles in his career, but if he's schooling, if he's doing everything right, then I would like to think he's back to even his Christmas form, and his Christmas form beats Lossy Mouth for me here, even over the further trip. So to me, I think he
I think
wins
he'll
it.
improve from his Christmas, and
Yeah,
I think Lossiemouth will do the same. But to a degree, it's whether that trip will help her kind of travel kindly. But there's not a lot in the race apart from that. Would Obi in there is maybe semi interesting, but they're all got a lot to find, and I don't really see a lot of obvious hard front running pace either.
no,
And I think he'll be able to travel within his comfort zone pretty easily. And so would Lossiemouth at 2.5, but. I just think it's who you trust more and who you think's a better horse, and I do think Constitution Hill is better.
Right, just a couple obviously in day one before we get into the action on day two. I've got a couple of fancies. They're both in the same race actually in the Mayor's Bumper. Jackie Hobbs for Harry Derham, I think, is very impressive. Both actually Jack Hobbs fillies, these are, I believe. Jackie Hobbs for Harry Derham and Betty's Daisy for Ben Pollen. I think Jackie Hobbs obviously was very impressive last time out. Betty's Daisy, obviously the trainer won this last year with Diva Luna. So just get the track record to win this. Anything you like in the opening day apart from
Yeah,
the
I was
time?
pretty sweet in Lifetime Ambition
Okay.
in the Hunter's Chase. It's moved into favourite, but I just think this trip's right up his alley. He's two nice point wins. I think he'll go well. I think my Drogo's dangerous in it each way. Gracchus de Bam, if he threw out his last run, would have a chance at 20s. That's what I was thinking in that. The Red Rum, Primos was one of the many horses that was absolutely shafted by a woeful starter at Cheltenham. He might gain compensation here. I thought this was more suitable than Cheltenham anyway for him. He's off a nice little weight, 10.6. He could be handy, prominent, and maybe dictate things. I think he'll handle this kind of quicker ground better than Sanbrou, who won it last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he can dictate and go well. Calico each way off the pace is possibly interesting in that. In the Bumper, I mean, I actually quite like the Fergal pair of Strong Run at Cheltenham and Highland Haven at 16s. Won it 2 years ago with Isotinos, obviously. Highland Haven's had a similar prep, so Strong Run, and I prefer them to Blue Betty because they've had 3 runs and not just the one. And his better males tend to kind of have a bank of experience behind them before running in this. And I just think those were the two that I quite liked against the field in the, main bumpers. But I mean, that's what I would tentatively look at.
Okay, we'll move into day two. Obviously, we don't have declarations yet. We're just going on what we believe could be happening. But we'll go to the opening race, the Mild Maid Novices Chase, won last year by this year's Gold Cup winner.
Yeah, I know the way you're thinking, and it's a good race for horses that promote themselves into Gold Cup equation. House and Yours won it, Jerry Colom's won it,
Yep.
Chantry House, Lost to
Native River,
Translation.
Native River won it, I think.
Native River and Might Bite both won
Yeah.
it. Good race in its own right. It's very interesting.
What do you think?
Do
Do you think he will? Because he's entered in a handicap as well on Saturday. Off 142, I think. You think it's
I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. There's mileage in the mark still, and you would have thought it would be handicap route because they're touting Coral Gold Cup next season, and if you win this, then you can. I mean, you're into 160 territory, really.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be tall order.
Are you with handstands? Or are you taking them on?
This ground should be. It's definitely his right race, and it's fallen apart a little bit. He's 74ish, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Short enough.
13 to 74, yeah.
And this quick ground, I actually thought Dancing City was quite interesting, but his ground, he's not getting it just in the back of that, he left a poor Cheltenham run behind last year as well, and he won
Mm-hmm.
a 3 miler hurdle pretty impressively. And he obviously takes his racing well, and I think I could see him do something likewise here. I just wonder if he'll not go here now and go Irish National or something with him instead, because I don't think 151, for instance, is completely beyond them. Handstands has got the rating in the book. Yeah, he should take a world of beating. Whether I back him or not, I'm not sure. Stellar Story's probably the main danger
I
on
think that's the
form.
I am kind of drawn to him as well. I think he ran badly last year. Well, no, not last year. I don't think he ran badly in the
Second in the Brown Advisory.
second in the Brown Advisory. He won obviously the Albert Bartlett. I think he is the one for me here. I Colwell Potter obviously could just go and do what he did at Cheltenham. Is it going to be a different test? Possibly. He's only £2 below handstands in official ratings.
Yeah, he doesn't shape as if he wants 3 miles right now.
Nah, that's the thing as well. My time would be interesting. Nothing really else standing out. I think Stellar Story's the one. I think he had a consistent run at Cheltenham. I think he has good form over 3 miles. I'm quite happy to take him on against handstands.
Yeah, I'm leaning that way as well. I mean, he handles decent ground as well, Jack Kenny's now ruled him out for the season. I think a lot of Gordon Elliott's he could probably upgrade over Cheltenham. I don't think it's been talked enough that the two main jockeys were
I just
basically
hope
injured.
Jack
Right?
Kennedy has a clean has a season where absolutely nothing goes wrong, because I think he could potentially have an all-time season if he's just allowed a clean bill of health.
I think he's the best jockey on the planet. I really do, jump wise. I think, and I've said that for a long, long time. I just think he does need a clean bill of health, and I think just getting away from the end of the season is a really good move, and he can come back next season fresh, fit, and firing, hopefully. Because if he does, I think, yeah, absolutely, and he's had no luck whatsoever, and
No.
and, and, it, and it hampers the horse's chance. I mean, still a story. Sam Ewing rode him; he was in better days ahead, but they're still second and third. But I mean, particularly on a staying race like that, you need to be strong in the finish. And if jockeys aren't, then it's going to hamper the horse's
Yeah.
chances. See, and Stellar Story, he has handled this quicker ground, and he's an Albert Bartlett winner. He's a very hardy, consistent type. Yeah, I mean, I think I'd be leaning that way as well. Handstands are obvious danger, but no drying ground. This has been the plan. They've not deviated from it, and he might be too good for them. But I think he's short in comparison to what Stellar Story is.
Let's move into the Trusted Trader Top Novices Hurdle. Romeo Coolio in here at 5-4, obviously third in the Supreme. Tripoli Flyer, who was obviously a non-runner at Cheltenham at 3-1. You've got Salvatore Monday, Diva Luna, Jet to Vegas in here, obviously for Lucinda as well. Romeo Coolio to me is probably the best of these, but is 2 miles in this ground what he needs at this point? Do you think he might need a little bit further?
He might, but I think it's such a poor race in behind that it's immaterial. And we've seen placed horses, Felix Desjardins, John Bowen in the pocket, Mystical Power, just come out and win an easier race, and he looks the same to me. Mystical Power fending off Firefox, and that Supreme last season wasn't good. This year's Supreme, I think, was, and he ran an honourable third, and he ran fine, and that form is comfortably better than anything else in this field.
I do like Diva Luna for this each way. I think 10-1. She's good track form. Ran her best race of the season at Cheltenham last time out. I don't think that's a strong race at all. I think if she's round about 8-10-1, I think she's a belting each way bet.
Yeah, if she's an each way price, then yeah, I can see it. I think Tripoli Flyer might get found out his jumping style a little bit here. Salvador Monday is the same boat. He was ridiculously keen, but I mean, he'll probably have Paul Townend on, which will be a plus. He still managed to finish fifth despite doing plenty wrong again. He might take another step forward, but Supreme form over place Mares Novices form. It should be night and day really, and it usually is. And Romeo Coolio, yeah, he shapes as if he's further, maybe a bit Firefox like, but even that would be good enough to win this. And I think odds against him here is would be pretty good going. I think it's a strong fancy. I think it's a poor race.
It's a poor race, yeah. There's not a lot of form to it at all. Let's move into the Melling Chase. Obviously, John Bonn on pretty much a comeback trail after he's obviously shown in the Champion Chase. He's 4 to 6 here, loves the track. I think El Fabiolo's likely to come here as well. It's hard to see past John Bond, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it was a similar case in the Cheltenham, but the extra half mile helps. His record outside the Cheltenham Festival is impeccable, and you'd expect him to improve on that again. And yeah, he should win. It's whether he's finished second in that champion chase, is it maybe taking a bit more out of him than you'd expect? I don't think it's much of a problem, and if he avoids mistakes, I think he'll win. Hartwood obviously ran really well, probably the chief danger. And I mean, El Fabio, I thought he ran okay last time. He just got outstayed, but is he over his kind of jumping and physical issues at this level? He's hard to take on trust. So there's no gimme at 46, but I expect John Bond to get it done one way or another.
Let's move into the Sefton Novices Hurdle. You've had a pretty good record in this in the past, and I'm hoping you're going to pick the winner again. What Lucinda Russell horse wins this race? I'm only kidding. Does she have a chance in this, though? Does she have a Hoysenor or a Apples Away that could win this?
Yeah, well, Jupiter de Mott and King of Answers is in it, but I don't think they're that level. King of Answers might be the one out of the pair, but I think they ran their best novice at Cheltenham this year in Derry and Paddy.
Surprised they haven't went here with him.
He needs time off. He's a big chaser, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's and running quick ground again off a quick turnaround is something they simply won't do. So he's sensibly swearing it.
What do you like?
I think Califet and Vol is probably the one.
Yeah, me as well.
This has been the long-term plan. His form ties in with a new line that's now been boosted.
Yeah.
Good ground's a plus. Kay's got a base mark of 137 and he's a 5-1 chance. But I mean, I think he'll take this out. Mr. Meggett's had a setback, but I mean, Aintree in those colours got a chance. Jacob's Ladder would have a chance. He was probably the most interested one if he went to Cheltenham. Out of
yeah.
Familiar Dreams is a big engine that isn't completely furnished as a mare. Step up in grade might be a little bit too much for her. That would be my fear. Yeah, I was just drawn to Califet and Vol by default, really. I think Western Knight could run a big race. I don't think he's good enough, but I think he's the one that I think would run a definitive career best in this. But he would need to be kind of plus 20-1 to entertain as a bet. Yeah, Nicky Henderson won this with Santiris, won it with Champ, won it with Beat That 11 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good record when he maps one out this far. And I think there's a lot of untapped potential there. I mean, I did see him at Ayr, and I thought he would make into a kind of high-class horse when he was third in the bumper.
Yeah, I put him up as my tracker horse after he got beat with the new line, so I had him marked for this not for this specifically, but I thought he could be a good Nicky Henderson novice, which there wasn't a lot of this year. I think he's probably apart from the Lamba, he's probably the best Nicky Henderson novice we've seen.
Yeah, I would think so. He's definitely up there, and this has been the plan. I think flat tracks suits him. He stayed on really well in his bumper days, where you think, yeah, he's definitely a stayer down the line. So I think he's going to improve for this trip as well. Yeah, he's just about the percentage call. I wouldn't have a strong opinion in the race because I think they're all kind of much of a muchness in behind, but I think he's the one that could take a significant step forward from what he's achieved. He's very exciting and unexposed, and I think he's good enough to win it.
What do you like for the other races on Friday? Well, I'm just kind of getting a few declarations just now. Anything in the other three races? What do you think? Like just in the last one before, obviously, I let you go. Like to go and talk about your horses, but Jazzy Matty is now, from what it looks like, to be declared over hurdles off a mark of 135, £7 less than his chase mark.
He's versatile enough, isn't he, to do that? I'd imagine that would be the opening, the kind of the handicap race, the 220. It's kind of like their Coral Cup that he'd be in. I mean, I just think he's probably a Cheltenham specialist. He's probably been mapped out for that rather than anything. If in my end, tin for a while, I think he might go well in the 220 again, each wee price. It's a very competitive race, so I've not not really had a deep look at it. I think the best bet of the week is in the Topham if he runs. That's the Gopher. I mean, he's £12 lower than what he was in the Grand National, where he travelled really, really well into it, and he just didn't stay in the back of the second last. And if he goes for this and Sean Bowen's on, I'm already all over him for it, but I would be all over him even more.
Ran a storm on the cross country.
Well, he made eye-catching late gains, didn't he, for fourth, and I think it was a bit of a fact-finding mission ahead of this. I think this has definitely been the plan. If you see his Aintree, I mean, he takes the fence as well. He was just in behind the leaders in what must have been the best Ultima of all time, and Corrick Rambler beat Fast or Slow. And he was bang there as a prominent kind of, and he's off 137 now. He's only 8. And he just didn't stay the Grand National, which was a very classy renewal last year. And he's plummeted down the weights as a result of that. And he hasn't been running badly. And he's back over this 2 mile 5 trip. And the last time he did that, he won a really hot Leopardstown handicap in the Dublin Racing Festival. And he's just here again over that trip. And I just think the niche aspect of this really, really suits him. And I'm really, really sweet on him here. And I think 14s is a fantastic price. Ahead of like your Glenn Gooley's and James DeBellis of the world. We know James DeBellis has been there and seen it, but
James DeBellis will be a certainty to finish second or third.
He's £1 higher, and the Golfer's £12 lower.
Yeah.
And weights and measurements, there's no comparison. The other one of interest is obviously Shan Truce, who was in it last year and made a big mistake.
I think ground though here could be a worry.
I'm not bothered about ground with him. I think it's okay. I mean, it's whether he makes a mistake. The horse makes a mistake again. He's liable to throw one in. Could do so again, but I mean the Golfer and Shan Truce, I think by some distance the best two handicapped horses in this race, and I'm hoping they're 1 and 2, and I hope the Golfer wins. And I actually think he could win this in serious style. If this has been the plan, that I suspect it is. On a pure handicapping sense, he's absolutely lobbed in, and not race scoring any particular targets, but there are indications that he might have here with this horse. Cross country at the back, made late gains, was never really put in the race seriously, and he wouldn't have liked the deteriorating ground in some aspects of the track there. He runs well on good ground. He's back over the trip that he last won in. He's plummeted down the weights without his form really kind of reflecting that he's done in the game. And I think it's been a lovely price for this at 14 to 1 bracket for weeks. And he's, let's say I'm an anti-post bet, but he's one that I've tipped away at for this for some time. And yeah, I think he's got a big chance all over him for the top.
Okay, interesting. We'll move into Saturday. Obviously, these are potentially not all of these are likely to go. From what I can see here, I don't think these are the accurate prices, but Lalamba is in the Mersey Novices Hurdle. Even money, I think I've got here. A horse you've liked for a while, Cocktail Divan, is 6 to 1. I don't think it'll be as high as that. Horace's Peril, 8 to 1, obviously won the bumper last year. Miami Magic's in here, as is Regent Stroll. Obviously, this depends on Lalamba, but you've liked Cocktail Divan for a while, and I'd imagine until you saw the name Lalamba, he was your pick for this.
Yeah, maybe sitting stuff for a dual forecast with these two now. Yeah, he's probably come in fresh. He's not happy. So we work ahead ran in the Supreme. It might be a little bit off-putting with him, but he came back on track the last day, and this has been the plan since. And I think he's a good horse for this. He's getting maybe a bit to find bare ratings, but I think he's eminently capable. Interesting if Jet to Vegas comes here or the 2 miler. Won quite well at Kelso. It suggests that it probably should be this race. Brighter Days Ahead, Irish Point, Three Stripe Life, My Drogo, good classy horses at the top of the market tend to take this out. But Lalamba's a big fly in the ointment, and if you think that this horse is special, and he is actually the highest rated horse in this already, by a long way, and he's getting £10.
Yeah.
He should be really hard to beat, shouldn't he? Really, if he takes it up, it's whether he actually goes, and if he does, then I'll side with him, and if he doesn't, then I'll back Cocktail to Fan. He's now 3-1, but I think it's boring, but I think that's the way it would go. I think Blue Devasser on a big race, Cornell else got a good recent record in it, and he'd be the main danger. But this market looks bang on to me. I wouldn't really entertain anything outside the top three in the market, to be honest.
Let's go to the Liverpool hurdle. Obviously, Tia Hupu back looking for a comeback after getting narrowly beat by Bob Ollinger on the Stairs hurdle. Kitzbühel, I think, is an interesting runner for Willie Mullins here if he goes. Home by the Lee, strong leader in here, obviously won it last year. You've got the Wallpark, Gwenny May boys in here as well. Good race. Do you like Tia Hupu, or would you be looking to take him on?
I don't know who's going to ride him now. I mean, and drying ground. He's again there to be shot at. He ran okay behind Bob Ollinger, and he sets the standard again. But he's skinny. Is he best fresh as well? Is this going to be too quick for him? Too quick for him in terms of turnaround, and B in terms of ground. And you're getting a kind of similar kind of price, maybe a bit longer. Home by the Lead, disappointing this last year, and unseated at Cheltenham, and I just think he might be getting found out at the age of 10 now in these kind of races. Kitzbühel could be absolutely anything. He's only £10 off Tia Hupu. I'm tempted to side with him. I mean, I think this has been the plan for strong leader all season again. Yeah. So they won it last year. I mean, he said wind ops and pro. I don't think I could trust him at fives personally. Gwenny May boys progressing has a bit to find again at this level, but it's definitely progressive. And the Wallpark ran really well. I mean, plodders and stairs like him that could take his race, and you think that this won't suit as much as a Cheltenham would. I think it could. I mean, I thought he did quite well to be third at Cheltenham for a horse that was as inexperienced at him at the top level, that probably didn't get the pace that he wanted, and maybe didn't get the ground that he wanted either. I don't think he's out of it either. Jimmy Desoy could take this step up in class in his stride as well. I mean, you just don't know. The rest are probably going to find this a little bit tough. I was just drawn to the kind of absolute unexposed anything Kitzbühel angle. And I don't think you need to be a superstar to win these kind of races. It's not an inspiring division, and that's been a stick that's used to beat Tia Hupu with in the past. But he's already almost there in ratings, and he looks capable of much more than what he's done, and he's been fresh for this. And I imagine this has been the plan. I'd imagine that Amsterdam was the plan for the Aintree hurdle, and this was the plan with him.
Yeah,
by a long way out, and Amsterdam's obviously not made it. Yeah, it's a race where I don't think I'd be betting to a great deal here, but I think I'd have to side with Kitzbühel at fives over Tia Hupu at 94.
I think he's an interesting one. I do think I could see Hidden Valley Lake running a strong each way price if they do go. I can see him running well at an each way price. Tia Hupu, though, you're taking it and trust that he's going to act well on the ground. If Tia Hupu does act well, I think he'll win. But again, it's one of those races I'll probably leave alone to a degree. 5 o'clock, the race after the Grand National is obviously the McGowan Novices Chase. Rematch between the Arkle second and the Arkle fourth. Load of Sud against Only by Night. Caliph de Belly's in here, obviously been kept fresh for this. Obviously ran Sandown behind handstands in the Scilly Isles. What do you think here?
Well, Dan Skelton thinks Load of Sud's better than what he's shown in the Arkle, and if he's right, then he's going to take a world of beating. I do think he can turn around the form with Only by Night here. But I think the freshness of Caliph de Belly, I think, is quite interesting. I think at the prices, I think he's the bet.
Definitely a 2 miler.
Yeah, and he's within £4 of Load of Sud, and he's coming in fresh. You might be able to take him. It's hard to get. I mean, beating Arkle horses have done quite well. Found the 50, obviously won it last year. John Bon 2 years ago. Gentleman D, Shishkin. Oh no, they tend to take the Arkle in more than not. Caliph de Belly, he was very disappointing. Standing heavy ground, but that was heavy ground over 2.5 behind handstands, which was unsuitable for him. And I think with that, his record's reasonably good. He's got a big performance in him, and I suspect that this is it. And if he does deliver, I think he can win it. So he's outside of the three that I like. The rest I don't think are good enough. Yeah, I think on his penultimate start at Cheltenham, where he whacked Vincenzo by 9.5 lengths. I know it was a 3-runner field, but that's when he kind of looked like a graded horse to be. And I think on that, if he builds on that, I think he can take this out.
Okay. I probably think Lord the Sud is probably the one out I don't think he ran a terrible race at Cheltenham. I think Only by Night will probably appreciated obviously the hill. I think Lord the Sud will be better on a flatter track. I think he's probably the best jumper in the field. I think Lord the Sud's probably the one for me here. I've got two really strong fancies for Saturday before we talk about the Grand National. I think in the first race on Saturday, Mr. Hope Street could be absolutely thrown in if he gets in here. He probably will, but 6-1, Dan Skelton's put him up as one of the best chances of the week. I think basically what he done, he's been kept fresh for this after Christmas at Newbury, where he was second behind Jipcott. I think there was obviously excuses that day, but his form before that, he's been so consistent this season, and I think you're off 1-2-7. Looking at the field, I think he's an absolute huge chance.
The Yard have won it the last twice and 3 of the last 5 in so they certainly know what they're doing. And if he gets in, Timmy Tuesday's an interesting horse. Obviously, I saw him at Ayr where he was very imposing and very impressive, and he almost get in the Martin Pipe, which would, Gordon Elliott targets it. Always a one it we would do anyway easily, and he was second to final demand. He won it down Royal at Cheltenham Week. He won it Ayr. He's a horse that's got a future, and 135 certainly not beyond him at 16s. That's why I'll be looking. But yeah, if a Skelton horse gets in, he could cause some serious damage, couldn't he? And it's a Yard that know exactly what it takes to win this recently.
And the other one in the final race, obviously the bumper at 5:35. I think Mossy Fen Road for Harry Derham. I think put in a super performance in debut, point-to-point winner. Harry Derham has put him up as a big chance as well. Really good pedigree. Johnny Burke obviously already. Paul O'Brien's going to take the ride. Sorry, I think Johnny Burke might have something else in the race. I think from what I can see. Don't know. Johnny Burke's riding for Fergal. Yeah, he's riding Frontier Pins for Fergal. But I think massive chance here. Don't think it's the strongest bumper you'll ever see. I don't think it has been in recent years, but there's some decent horses come out of it. And Harry Derham, I think, has a good crop of bumper horses this season, and I think this could be the best one of them.
It might well be. It's a race I've not looked at, to be honest.
Okay. Obviously, the Nichols has had a good record in it in the past. Horace's Peril won it last year. Anything you like on Saturday before we get into the big one?
No, not particularly. No, he's definitely stronger than me in the handicaps Saturday.
Saturday's the only races I'm quite strong on. But we'll move into the big one. Obviously, the race where everybody in Britain thinks they're George McCririck for 5 minutes. But again, it's all in good fun. The Randox Health Grand National, very different race to what I grew up watching. I'm sure you'll agree with that. I think it has a very different look to it in the past couple of years, but still going to be a competitive betting heat. You've got a Rocco, Stumptown 9-1, likes of Hewitt, big money for Hewitt over the past few days. I think Hewitt has become, I hate using this phrase, but I think Hewitt has become the absolute definition of a wise guy's horse in the past few days.
Yeah, I've seen a wave of money for him, but I've not really seen anybody tip him up. I've just seen all this
Sharp put a word in for him, I think, and that was
it. He's constantly putting a word in for him and things like that. But he's only the trainer's the only person that I've seen positive. I've seen maybe it is really wise guy stuff.
Is it just ground? He's a one horse that you think could act in good ground.
It's ground and class, isn't it? But yeah, he's been smashed in. I've not seen anybody really publicly kind of go in there, but obviously the private money has been from long range. All of them at the top of the market have their own kind of claim, really, haven't they?
I think there's a bit. Well, I think everything like in the top of the field. I liked intense raffles for this for a while. I do think ground's a bit of a concern, but I don't think he did a great prep for it anyway. Look, I know he was second behind that rocket, but I I'm very surprised that an Irish national winner. He's not had a good prep for this. I think I Am Maximus is the same. I don't think his prep has been as good as it was last year. What do you think of the top of the market? Is there one in particular you kind of like? Is there anything standing out?
Well, I mean, funnily enough, I mean, I think it's a very. I mean, they're all chopping and changing favourites really, and eight to 1 the field. I mean, I Maximus now come in for money, and I think you're going to get this vibe all the way throughout because I think this is a kind of race where maybe like an old school Grand National where you take one look at it one day and you fancy something, and then you would maybe take a look at it the other day and fancy something completely different.
I think it's more of a betting heat who'll go off favourite. I think probably I Am Maximus will because of last year.
I think a Rocco will go off favourite.
Okay.
Because I think he's the one that I've seen that's been pretty much given a favourable mention by absolutely everybody. And I'll be no different because I mean I do think he has a big chance, and he has been laid out for it all. I mean, they all have probably, but he's been laid out for it more than most, and he now ticks that very recent bracket of completely unexposed horse for this. And with I know the way you're thinking, not being here, you have to suspect that GP McManus has something up his sleeve, and so does the trainer, Gavin Cromwell, and Percival Legalwa has got his act together the last twice and improved from all recognition. And he's come in for money, and you can see why in that angle alone. So, out of the GP battalion, I Am Maximus is the one that I'm maybe least interested in. It's just a little bit unfair on him because I don't think he's getting his ground. He's obviously off £8 higher. It's not beyond him. He's top weight, but I just think he's probably like a lot of past. Remember Noble Yates won it, and all these returning heroes. He looks like he's booked for like third, fourth, or fifth. You know, he should be kind of handicapped out of it with these new horses coming in. So Neil McCarthy, the mask at top of the market. I'm most interested in the Rocco, and out of the Cromwell horses, I'm leaning towards Percival Legalwa now. It would have been Vanilla, but ground, like you, intense raffles, I'm a bit concerned about the ground because even though he's wearing blinkers and it's helped him the last twice travelling wise, you wonder at 10 as he had his time, and he might need it softer than this. Although he's undoubtedly better handicapped than he once was, but yeah, Rocco and Percival Legalwa are the two at the moment top of the market that I'd be drawn to.
I've heard. I don't know if it's correct. I don't know if it was because yesterday I ignored kind of social media until 12 o'clock because some of the stuff was just ridiculous. Like Patrick Mullins riding Lossymouth and things like that. But I did see yesterday at some point that Mark Walsh was going to be riding Percival Legalwa. Is that correct? Yeah. Have you heard that?
Yeah, it seems to be the case.
That's interesting as well. I do think that's interesting. I think, well, I'd heard him say he hasn't won the race for 48 years. It's been the big what if of his career. I can see Highland being very, very interesting here. I think he had the right prep for this. The only thing that puts you off his trainer with the race, he's flung so many darts at it. Is this the one that he wins it with? But
again, he's got the right kind of recent profile for it in terms of good setting it. Kempton the last twice, you know, and it's whether he takes to the fences, and you know he should really. I thought he was a shade disappointing getting behind Cacciatore where he was beaten 15 lengths. But he shapes as if this trip would suit. He's reasonably uncomplicated. He's got a nice featherweight. He gets in, and he's a nice price. The bet in the race for me, and the one that I like the most, is Can Do Kid.
I was going to bring him up, yeah.
I think he's a nice price. He's got a nice chance, and I think Paul Nicholls, the way he maps out horses like this long term, you know, Coral Gold Cup, after he won the Coral Gold Cup, he said this was the plan, and he's improved for starting up on trip.
The Greatwood was just there for it was just a prep on it. It was just
that's an absolute prep.
Wasn't putting the rest at all.
2.5 miles, you know, just to keep him ticking over. But he goes well fresh, obviously. And he's definitely improved this season. been the plan. He's going to get similar ground. He was third in the Topham last year, where he was staying on at 10-1 quite nicely. So he's got experience of the fences. So it's been a long term plan. And he won that Coral Cup easily. And Victorino's come out and won. The fourth has come out and won. The fifth has come out and won at Christmas Henry's Friend, who's a good horse. And all the way down to the 10th is come out and won in that race. So even though it didn't really look a vintage renewal today, the form's working out quite nicely. And he's got a very nice weight at 152. And I think at the prices, I think he's the best bet in the race, personally for me, at 20s. Because I think the top of the market is very difficult to decipher. They've all got reasonable chances. But I think out of the mid-rank lot and outsiders, I think he was comfortably the best horse. And Harry Coppins picked him. The trainer's got a wonderful association with the race, and if he does win it, it sparks a kind of trainers' championship into life as well, which it did when Iron Maximus won it for Willie Mullins. And he's a kind of progressive 9-year-old. That, I mean, you've seen Corrick Lambert do it, Rule the World, Tiger Roll second time around. He's that kind of sweet spot where he's not carrying too much weight. He's unexposed enough at the age of 9 that he's got enough improvement in him, and he's been mapped out for it for some time, and the yard seem reasonably confident. So, yeah, he's my number one anyway in it at the prices.
I like Can-Do Kid. The other horse I was going to put up that I thought was very interesting at the kind of mid, kind of 20, 33 to 1 was Beauport for the Twiston Davis team. I don't think ground's a worry. I don't think prep's been too bad. I know he was second in the race at Haydock last time out over hurdles. They said at the time it was just a run with this in mind. Like 156, we know the horse goes well. It ran a very good race in the Midlands National last year, but in front of Mr. Incredible, who obviously we'll touch on in a wee second, because I know you were going to talk about that. But look at his runs this season. Like he beat won at Ascot in the Berkshire National in November. Ran in the long walk hurdle where he finished behind Crambo, and I thought ran a very good race that day. And then finished second at Haydock. To me, I think his prep's been very, very good, and it's been a target for a long time. Like to me, I think at 33 to 1 is a good chance.
I couldn't have him at all, personally. I mean, 156. He is. I think that's a horrible mark. I think he's got no chance off that. He was 28 to 1 last season in the Scottish National. What horse would be in that would be 28 to 1 Scottish National pulled up?
I know.
So I not for me at all. If he wins, I mean, nothing shocks you in this race.
No.
That would be quite close to it.
Would you think of the Mr. Incredible thing?
I mean, the BHA have made their decision, haven't they? He's been unruly. They said he was unruly at Kelso, and we all know that he's quirky. He doesn't seem to be getting better, and the optics of the race mean that he probably has to be taken out, isn't he? Connections are understandably very frustrated about it. It's a dream for them to just have the runner, but he was a rogue outsider, and he put the rogue into rogue outsider, really. The issue I would have with it is that the BHC are just doing this for show because it's a Grand National and it's a Grand National panel, and we're all saying that it's a watered down Grand National that isn't what it used to be, the race. So I think the bigger question that a lot of people aren't touching about Mr. Incredible is, should this horse be running at all?
Yeah.
I mean, he could run the Ayr next week. What's the difference there? Because the fence is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Sorry, but I mean, this is the kind of stuff where your animal rights brigade, if they actually really cared about their cause, if they did their homework and actually looked into the sport, that kind of stuff there is just ready, right ammunition for them. Well, I mean, they say that welfare is the watchword. Well, is it really? Because Miss Incredible would run in every other race apart from the Grand National, because that's the only race that the social licence is on watch for the general public. I think that's the only fundamental reason why he's not running, rather than the actual welfare and consideration of the horse.
Are you ready to hear my big outsider? You want to guess what it is?
Is it Monmeg Genius?
No, it's not. You've backed it before. I think you've actually put it up as an anti-post pick before in this channel.
I have probably backed absolutely everything. Phil Dorr
at 100 to 1.
Yeah.
Class Angle. His prep's been okay. He's definitely been tagged for this. He's been beaten by some decent horses. I actually think his best run was last time out, where he was third behind Sinicia and El Fabiolo, where 2.5 miles on heavy ground. They've obviously thought we'll put him by. Big price. This has been the target for a long time. I've seen worse bets at 100 to 1, and we know that this is maybe not the type. He definitely gets in. He's 22nd in the weights, 150, 10 stone 9. Gordon Elliott doesn't have much in front of. I think 3 Card Bragg is his only horse in front of him. So I don't. You could end up with like Jordan Gameford or something like that lining up, which I'd be okay with. I think at 80 to 1, he's a potential each way bet because you are going to get big places. My urge to anybody would be look round your bookmakers because you will get you'll get places everywhere. You'll be looking and getting 6. You might even get 7 in some places. See what you can get.
Yeah, I think he'll probably get 6. Yeah, it's definitely not the worst shout in the world. I mean, he's just maddeningly frustrating, isn't he? I mean, his only recent wins, like where he was 1 to 40 in a 2-runner race, and he made heavy work of that as well at Thurles, didn't he? 2.5 lengths from a horse rated 114.
Yeah.
And he was getting £7. He was only conceding £7. He's in his get back class, and if this has been the plan, then it's some execution of it because there's not really a lot in his back work to go on, and he's not gone above 3 miles at all in his career, and he doesn't scream as if he'll stay to me. But yeah, he's a long shot, and he can come in a race like this. I think in a modern day national, I think it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
I'll fling a couple out at big price. It's Chantry House.
I thought you maybe mentioned
he's 11 and ancient, but he's shown a bit of spark.
Has won this season.
Yeah, he did win, and when Nicky Anderson ended, it wasn't the plan, and they were. I think they were contemplating going hunter chasing with him. He's actually held his form okay. He's as a stayer, and good ground's okay. I mean, 100 to 1's maybe a bit big for him. I suppose he's 11 and he may be too old for it, but 100 to 1 isn't too bad. Chemical Energy is another kind of going out, but he's not going to get in. One that I had a token look at, he's 150 to 1. Horanso Dairy.
Okay.
Of the new Michael Kiriard. I mean, he's 147 creeps in.
Formerly of the Richies and Mr. Mullins.
Formerly of Richie, formerly of Willie Mullins, where he was. I mean, he's only regional nationals and things like that. But I mean, he ran all right mid-rank at Leopardstown the last twice, Double Mason Festival and Christmas in red hot handicaps. Where he was a big price then and ran as well as he could probably expect in mid-division. But he's always staying on. Coral Gold Cup, reasonable 14 to 1 chance. Kind of backed out of it a little bit that day. And probably not good enough for Willie Mullins' grade. But Limerick Regional Nationals as a novice, he was a decent second in behind Real Steel, where I think he just get done for experience there of 145. It was a big weight, big effort. He had Chemical Energy in behind, the company sergeant, Panda Boy, Stu's Keeney, and he shaped as if he was a stayer. Battle of Doyne was in it, and the golfer, horses like that. It was a good race off a big weight. He was beaten favourite, and he looked like a novice. It was going places. His best efforts have been over 3 miles, and he's shaped as if he needs further. And good ground's important to him. It's a good ground national over extreme distance is probably what he wants. I'd imagine that the new owner has specifically bought him for this in mind. A bit like imagine with Missing Kennel saying it's the only race that we can target him at all year, really, that's suitable for him. And he's an outsider that isn't completely gone at the game. Promises to stay, and he could go. It is a massive leap, but it's 150 to 1 at the end of the day, and yeah, a couple of pennies on him each way wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, I don't think.
What would you do if a certain brave man's game won? Would you give up the game?
Yeah, I wouldn't be here. No chance.
What do you think? The one horse I was going to touch on that I thought, obviously, I mean, his last 2 runs have been exceptional, but he's 33 to 1 is Nick Rocket. Is that purely down to ground, do you think?
I think we all know who's going to ride him.
Well, that Do you think? Because that to me, has that been mentioned?
And he's not well into the weights, is he? You know, he looks kind of a little bit handicapped out of it, doesn't he?
I didn't even think of that, but that's exactly what it will be.
And I think that's the issue. But he was 16s and now he's out of 33s, and you're going to get horses at the top of the market that will fall into the mid rank and go outside because they will go unfancied. It's that big a race. I mean, all 34 of them can't well be well supported. And there will be a point where you think he keeps going out, and maybe 33, 28 to 1 is a bit, you know, where he goes, he's too good to be that big, isn't he? Really?
Well, see, another thing as well, obviously, like, I know there was a claimer on him at Christmas. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but, like, maybe that's an option. Like, instead, maybe Patrick just wants the ride, I don't know, but...
Patrick really says he's won, and he's you know, in a way, I'll kind of maybe take the mickey out of him a little bit, and he's an amateur riding and maybe getting better rides than he is, but you know, he has won atop him. You know, he isn't absolutely abject, and around here, you just need a kind of good positive spin, and he's got the class, and he's improved at all recognition this year. And look, 163 looks a little bit, you know, it does look too high for him in face value, but you know, he could improve. And Manila Kakuna was that price.
That was the interesting one with Johnny Burke on board.
Around.
Johnny Burke on board's an interesting one because we know he's a bit of a fruitcake, the horse, but you would imagine, like, because I do think that this could be a good trip for him. Like, I do think the staying trip will bring out the best in him. But you would imagine, I don't think Johnny Burke's probably ever sat on him until this week, but you would imagine if they're going there with a serious each way chance, they would want somebody on board who knows the horse quite well. And I'm just going to run through some of the jockeys that have rode. Danny Mullins has been on board. Sean O'Keefe rode him Christmas behind Galloping Deschamps. Sean Flanagan's been on him as well. Like, Johnny Burke's an interesting... Not that I'm saying Johnny Burke's a bad jockey, not at all. What I'm saying, I just think it's a very surprising jockey booking.
I don't think anything surprised with Willie Mullins. I mean, if you look at the Triumph Hurdle, you know, I just don't think it comes into their thinking. You know, if they've got chances...
Do you get my logic? It's like, this is the one horse you would imagine needs a companion who's maybe been on him before, maybe knows him well, but Johnny Burke's on him in a big race like this. Like, it's...
doesn't put me off. I mean, if I liked him, it wouldn't put me off. The thing is, he's getting to a price where he's just too short on what he's done. I mean, I do think his shape deserves a big race, and he's an archetypal kind of spring horse.
Yeah.
You know, he come out Sandown, one off 151. You know, he's off 157 officially at 152. You know, he's definitely not out of it. He's shaping as if he's boiling up to doing something big. Whether it's winning this is a different matter. But, and I've seen a few shrewd people definitely put him up. But 25s, I can see it. At 14s, I think he's kind of gone price-wise, I think.
So we'll maybe go for a 1, 2, 3, 4 in the race. Like, who do you think? Like, your best attempt to try and pick the first 4 home in the Grand National.
The first 4, right? Iroko number 1.
Okay.
Can Do Kid 2. Percival Legalwa 3. And in 4th, we'll stick in. I am Maximus in 4th.
Okay. I think I'm going to play... I do think Percival Legalwa is very interesting here. I think he is the one play for me. I'm going to play Highland. It's Highland as well to hit the 4, Beauport and Fildor for a bit of fun. But very interesting race. Well, obviously, the column about Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Callum will have his picks as well. Callum, always a pleasure, mate. I'll see you next week when we come home to do the air one. Our Scottish version.
Air next week, yeah. Missing Kerr will be there or not, I don't know. But he's 100 to 1 for that as well. It kind of sums up his overall profile. But yeah, no, it's into air, and then you're talking about, and then the Guineas will be around the corner.
Guineas shortly, yeah. Fairy House as well. You'll obviously get Sandown, Punchdown, all happening this month. The sun is coming out. It's now a time for Aintree. Thanks very much, folks. Enjoy your week. Gamble responsibly, and we'll see you all soon.